And for the record, none of this stuff is sealed. It was left with a little note, okay, regarding your, and this is an exaggeration, effed up little brother. Okay, it was, it's so obvious. Look here. This is, what does it say? This is 9 Hazen Lane, right? It doesn't say this address now, does it? Okay, and this is from 2019. Okay, all here, all this stuff. There's all bills, a lot of stuff that was just being sent here because he wanted my dad to pay for it. Because instead of getting health insurance like an adult and a grown, mature human being, he was just bill my dad, bill my father. He pays for everything. He bails me out of trouble. Going around pretending he's pretending to be like a rich kid with an unlimited amount of resources. That's why he's got all these fancy clothes, because I paid for it, and so did my dad. And he wasn't even supposed to get the little tiny bit of life insurance money that was left, which was only $30,000. Okay, he wasn't even supposed to get that until the very end. Me and my dad said, "Fuck it, well, we'll give him the $15,000," and my dad kept trying to refer to it as like 15%. And he was dying and saying, hey, maybe I said, you know what, because it's just a little money and it'll help him get on his feet, okay? Because my dad knew I was responsible, and even though $15,000 is going to make a huge difference to me, it didn't really, because my wife and I already paid $15,000 in back taxes, and we've been struggling to pay the mortgage. But meanwhile, my father was struggling to pay the mortgage for over 10, 12 years easily. And battling cancer, and depending on me to take care of him and help him pay all these bills here, that my brother would just rack up legal. Like, this is not in a sealed envelope. All this, this is his taxes. All this stuff is records that show your brother cost me my life savings and caused me cancer. And I've posted and shared this because it's so heartbreakingly painful to have the police come over here and say, here, unfortunately, we have something here that says we can vacate you from your house. I went before the judge and said, no, Your Honor, you made a mistake. And I've been in the house ever since, getting these visits and burglarizing, terrorizing me, and these late night, sounds in the middle of the night, and then very nice police officers, very professional, say, well, there's another order of protection, say that because of your YouTube channel and because you shared public information, so you're crying your eyes out over here. That's another form of harassment. So I don't know what else he could possibly say. He said really, really insulting, mean, and inappropriate things about my wife, which I won't repeat. Okay? And again, I've always been very, very gentle and kind to my brother. When he came out the military, he came out the Army, which was really came out of Walter Reed Medical Center, okay? The first thing he wanted to try to do was beat me up and punch me and hit me. So I just calmly subdue him and wrestle him to the ground. And I had to do this right up until my mother died in this room here, holding my hand. I had to do this in front of my mother, who had oxygen tubes in her nose and was crying right up until the night she died, saying, your brother just doesn't understand how sick I am. Right on this floor, this very house, she had tubes with an oxygen tank that reached all the way from this room to the kitchen. Okay? And while she was in hospice in this house for the last 3 days, I had been driving every day to radiation, actually living in my apartment in Mount Vernon. Right up until 2003, I took family medical leave from Church Pension Group and drove her every day to radiation when my father went to work, and my brother continued to harass, assault, and attack my father and I, up until the point where he brawled and tried to attack me with a knife and a screwdriver and a barbecue fork, which he did manage to surprisingly get into my buttocks once, right in the top of my buttocks. But the night before my mother died, she had the oxygen tubes in her nose, and the oxygen tubes were pulled out of her nose because he attacked me, and I subdued him, and like every other time before, held in my arms in the cradle, said, I love you, Andreas. And then he would get back up and try to fight me. And we'd do this 3-4 times until finally he was too tired and he'd walk away. Because I've never struck my brother. I've never punched my brother. Even though my friends used to say, hey, why don't you give him a body shot? I said, well, I'd break his ribs. And then when he got fat and overweight and he tried to attack me, after attacking his girlfriend in 2019, I went around him. I said, man, I'm not going to hit him. I'm not going to hit him. And I walked away. And he tried to come at my father, and I had to protect my father. He was full of cancer. He's pushing my father around. That's horrible. I didn't let him do that. My father called 911, and my brother grabbed the phone out of his hand and ran down the street. So I think that was the first time I've ever actually really had to call 911 in my whole life. And it was very traumatic for my father and I. And apparently my brother had been doing that when I wasn't live here in 2013. And me and my Uncle Joe, and Joe, I love you. I knew you and my father had some words, but that's all water under the bridge now. Me, you, and my father, Joe, we had to go to court and get him evicted here. But apparently the eviction didn't stick because my dad was, the next thing you know, called me up, Sally, you got to quit your job at Bloomberg and come take me to the hospital. Okay? And we never had time to file the official eviction. Okay? Just like we never had time to print out the will he was working on. Because that's all I have left is a handwritten will. I mean, come on now. How much more hard time could it be? But you have to go to court, and I don't blame the judge or anybody, but I blame my brother. And so did my father for all this bullshit. How humiliating is that? To have someone come in your house and say, hey, you need to leave because your brother's making up some bullshit stories about you and on his license, and telling people, I'm harassing them. Oh, this is the truth. And my attorneys have advised me, so hey, I'm pro se to this day. Every day is still an holiday. Thank you kindly for your support. Appreciate it. One love.